The other day I was asked by a fellow woodworker on a woodworking forum about designing a table that sort of a mid-century modern inspired piece, something like this with legs that are splayed and raked and these angled knees. And there were a few things I thought that kind of were interesting about at least the thought process of modeling this. And I thought I'd demonstrate a few little things. I'm not claiming that this is a perfect design. It's just sort of to represent the idea, and some of these dimensions and angles probably could stand a little fine-tuning. In any case, let's take a look at what I did. All right, so before we get stuck into this thing, just want to point out that I made a little custom toolbar with the tape measure tool and the protractor. I'm going to use these tools sort of like you might use pencil on a board, and I just put these out here instead of using the ones over on the far left, just because I'm going to be in and out of those tools as I go here, and you can see which tool I'm picking there. So the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a rectangle. I'm going to make it so that it's vertical, and I'm just going to use this as sort of my canvas to put my guidelines on, so I can keep them all in plane and a little easier to work that way. I'm going to look at the dimensions. The narrow one comes first, so I'm going to make that 24. The exact dimension for that one isn't terribly important. The other one, I want the top of my leg to be at 28 inches off the floor, so I'll make that 28. So there, now I've got that rectangle, and I'm going to start. And the reason I'm using guidelines here and the protractor tool is to get, these are not going to affect the geometry. They give me guides to work from and help me kind of see what's going on, and then I can delete them when I'm finished with them. So I'm going to start by defining the width of the foot here, and I'm just going to make that 1.25 inches. Some of this I'm just kind of making up, so as I said before, I don't think this is the most perfect design. It could probably use some refining, but hopefully you get the idea. So from here, I'm going to put in this guideline at an angle, and let's see, maybe 15, 12. I think we'll stick with 15. One of the things that's nice about a lot of the tools in SketchUp is if you're not totally convinced of the dimension or the angle that you put in, you can change it. Until you select another tool, you can do that. And so now I'm going to put in a guideline at 90 degrees. Part of my thought process here is also thinking about how I'm going to make the blanks for these pieces in the shop, and how I can cut them to final size with the tools that I've got. So I'm kind of thinking right now about this line, which will be the inside edge of the leg, being sort of my reference line. And I've put this guideline in at 90 degrees so that I can think about that as the end of my blank. And of course, the horizontal line here will be the mitered cut. And let's go up here somewhere. 2.5 maybe. Yeah. So I just put a guideline there, and that's you'll get a guideline if you start at an intersection or some other point. So, and in this case, I'm going to go from this point to that point. So then I get a guideline. So let's say that's going to be the leg. And then, since this inside edge is going to be my reference line, let's figure out where the knee is going to come out this side. Let's see, maybe 9. Maybe that'll be the top of the knee, and we'll come down here, and we'll try 10.5 maybe. And then I can go from this corner to that corner, and I've got the outside of my knee, and go to 90 degrees again, just like before, and I don't know, let's say 1.5 inches. All right, so we can kind of see a leg and a knee or a brace, whatever you want to call that thing. We'll call that good for this. And I'm going to use the line tool and just draw those, trace the guidelines. And then I don't need these edges or those or that one anymore, so those can be deleted. I've got my guidelines all laid out on plane, and what I'm going to do for this is I'm going to go ahead and sort of build my leg so it's straddling the red axis. So I'm going to push it this way 1/2 inch and this way 1/2 inch to make it 1 inch thick. And one thing I should have done, it's no big deal to do it now, but I should have put in a guideline at 90 degrees to that face, or that guideline that runs up the sort of my reference face. And I'm going to triple click on the leg geometry with the select tool, G to create the component, we'll call it leg. Whoops, and then I should have set the axes. I didn't. So we'll just change the axes. And the reason I'm changing the axes is to make the, for the component, is to make the component bounding box fit tightly around the leg, at least as tightly as it can. All right, and this one, now we can do the knee part. So I'm going to go in the red direction here from this intersection. So that's the same, in the same plane as the top of the leg. And I'm going to go ahead and draw this down here and here and connect the corners, pull that out, or push it and then pull it. This time I'm going to use the outside of the knee as my reference line. And so I've already got a guideline where I need it to be for the axis I want to set. So we'll call this knee. And this time I'm going to choose set component axes. And we can do this and that. And enter, and you can see now I've got that set. All right, so now I'm finished with these guidelines, and I've got a keyboard shortcut set up for delete guides, but you can do that from the edit menu. Actually, before I do that step, I'm going to go ahead and let's set out, I don't know, let's say 48 inches. and maybe 28 this way. This is just sort of kind of by eyeball, so, and these dimensions can easily be changed, but now I'm going to rotate the leg. Actually, let's only go to 45 degrees. Come on, there you go. Could have typed that. And then I'm going to use move copy. And since I am moving this in the red direction, the two components, I'm going to use flip along the red direction, and I have a keyboard shortcut set up for that. And we'll stick that there. And we'll select these two, and we will copy them back. And we'll flip those. And stick that there. All right. And I would use guidelines to model the aprons. I won't do that here, but we could go along here real quickly and just put on a top. And the way I'm going to do that is use what I've already modeled. Let's bring that up, I don't know, 1.25 inches maybe. And maybe we'll pull that out, I don't know, 4 inches. And double click on each of the edges. And we could go ahead and make that a top component. Hopefully you sort of get the idea here with using the guidelines. Very useful. Again, you're not committing to any geometry or anything. The guidelines don't affect your model as far as the way the geometry works. And I think of it again as the pencil lines on boards, or the, I don't know, chalk lines. Maybe something that you're going to get rid of, and you know, as soon as they've served their purpose. Now I was going to do another thing here real quick. I'm just going to lay this down and kind of talk a little bit about that. Again, that thought process of the way I drew this. What I'm thinking is, now I can set my fence on my sled. If I assemble these, I can set the fence on the table saw sled, cut these off in one go. So by designing things in place like that, I can use that thought process of how I would do it in the shop to guide me, and the way I'm modeling it in SketchUp to guide me in the shop. So it's kind of a two-way street as far as that goes. Anyway, I hope there's something there that you can take away. If you have any questions, by all means, put them in the comments. Thanks for watching.